general form. I. What is I? As in the evaluation that you have heard just now, the I stands for identify improvement. Okay, identify the improvements. Generally in a Toastmasters meeting or even in our school or in our workplace, it's very easy to criticize people. It's very easy to say that you are bad, right? Every time when we speak or every time when we do something, we tend to, that fellow tends to slouch a bit. He always seems to mumble or he's no energy. Identify those things. But when you identify those things, it's not to criticize the person, it's to help them to pinpoint where they can improve in their performance, in their speeches. For example, if a person is learning to sing, how many of you watch American Idol? Alright? Now, how many of you remember Simon? Okay, now I will talk a bit more about his style of evaluation, but if you remember Simon, you remember the two gentler people, Randy and Paula, right? Now, these two people are able to relate to the audience, relate to the participants. They'll say that your voice seems, it's okay, but it's not something that will bring you forward to the contest. It's very subtle. They identify the improvement. You seem to have a very high voice. If you have some volume control, then perhaps it will help you to deliver your song, or in this case, your speech more appropriately. So identify things that will help them to improve. So that is what the I is for. Identify improvement. Last but not least, we have the E. This one is encourage. When we have given feedback, try to bring up the person's spirit. When you have given feedback, most of the time people are feeling down because you have said that, well, the speech doesn't seem to be very good because the volume is a bit low. So you already brought the person down. So the last thing that we need to remember when you want to give an evaluation is to encourage the person up. Don't worry, because with these tips that you have gained, you can actually be a better speaker. Just learn to speak up a bit louder. Okay? So we package this very nicely in the form of a pie. Actually, there are other ways of delivering this. So, once again, what's the first P? Praise the positive. Identify the positive traits, the positive things you like about the speech. Good story, good volume control, good emotion. I almost cried when you shared that story to me. Number two, identify improvement, points of improvement. When we are giving feedback, it's not to attack the person. It's not to say that, oh, if you know Simon, that sucked. Please don't ever sing again. That is generally, while it may be true, but it could be handled more gently. You could have better improvement in this respect, and so on and so forth. And lastly, when the person is down, what do? We encourage them. We encourage them by encouraging them to continue their challenges. For example, some of you have received feedback just now. You say, speak up a bit, and people will be able to hear you. So it's to say that the speech is actually good, but if you can speak up or raise your volume a bit, then we can share it with more people. Right? Now, one of the things to almost conclude this speech, one of the things to be careful when you want to give evaluation. Now remember, it's not about being hurtful to the person, it's to help the person to be encouraged. The last word that I want to teach you today, share with you today is sad. Okay, we have triple X, we have pi, and the last thing, this is more towards what you should not do in an evaluation. SAT. S stands for self-centered. Have you heard of people saying something like this? If I were you, I will do it like this. How many have heard statements like that before? Whether to you or even maybe you have said it yourself. Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, the person standing here is not you. They have their own skills, they have their own positives, and maybe a bit on things that they can improve. So when you want to do an evaluation, do not try to impose your own values on the next person. If I were you, I would have done it this way. Perhaps a better phrase would be, perhaps you can consider this idea. So for example, so it will not be something that is forceful. You're not forcing your own ideas to the person. We are all different, right? We are all different, right? Some of us may be physically taller, shorter. Some of us can project our voices, some of us shy. So we are all different. We have to think of it, do not be self-centered. A. Anti-climax. Sometimes when we praise someone, I really like your speech, but I really enjoy your speech, but I think you did very well, but this is what anti-climax means. You are trying to praise the person, but you add in a word that diluted what you wanted to say. So be careful. When you want to praise somebody, put it as that. You have delivered a good speech. Room for improvement. Maybe you want to consider this. Pause at your positives. What we say here, praise is positive. Leave it as that. Lastly, is what I was sharing just now, the meaning. I think this one I do not need to elaborate further. It was more like what Simon does. That sucked. Full stop. When we want to give evaluation, it's to help people, not to put people down. And as you can see, when we see American Idol, people leave crying and all that. It doesn't bring anybody, it doesn't help anybody. At the end of the day, you will be the one that's losing out because nobody will want to hear from you. Nobody will ask you for feedback. Nobody will ask you for encouragement. So ladies and gentlemen, with 3 simple words today. Now for those who are movie buffs, triple X, just to recap, the first one is focus, the crosshair. Keep people in your focus. The second one, do not cross your hands. Right. Do not cross your legs. These are defensive poses. And when you're giving praise to people, when you're giving feedback, remember to praise the positives, identify improvements, and encourage. And be careful when you're giving evaluation. Do not be self-centered, anti-climatic, and demeaning. So I hope that when you later on, you'll be evaluating your fellow friends, peers, try to remember these things and show true, sincere concern for them. And with that, I'd like to end my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Johnson Yip.